All right, so today I'm going to be sharing a video where I'm going to provide you one best practice which I have encountered while working as Salesforce Financial Cloud Services Architect. So a lot of my clients mention that whenever um, they were working with action plans, they were not able to navigate back to the core action plan from the task that was related to the action plan. So I'll share an example with you. So a typical action plan looks, something like this. And let's say if I navigate into a task, right? So from the task, how do I navigate up to the original action plan? So over there, basically what I did was I leveraged action plans data model. So I'll add this help article link of the ERD of action plan in the description section of the video as well. So this is a basic, ERD for action plan data model. So if you can see over here from action plan, there's one-to-many relationship between action plan and action plan item, and then one-to-many relationship between action plan item and task. So what I did was I leveraged this relationship to help guide my client that they can simplify their UI. So I'll share the entire steps that I did, and you can duplicate this so that your client's experience is also enhanced. So first of all, what I did was I went on activity object. In the activity object, I created an action plan lookup um, field, which was looking up to the action plan object. And once that was done, what I did was I created a flow in the background. Now I'll explain you a couple of different ways. And then based on the use case, you can decide use case and the amount of technical debt that you want your client to inherit. You can then decide whether you want to go ahead with a flow or whether you want to go ahead with a trigger. But I'll basically explain you a couple of different ways that we can now populate this action plan field. So let's go to flow first and see how the flow is set up. So let me go to setup, and over here, let me go to flows. And okay, so this is the flow action plan field update. That's the name of the flow. Now, a couple of things that I wanted to highlight over here. First of all, whenever let's say you're creating an action plan, right? So an action plan, because you might already be aware of how to create an action plan. I won't really go into a lot of detail over there, but basically you can have dependencies on action plan. So you can say that this particular task is dependent on completion of the first task. So you can create a cadence and you can have prerequisites mentioned for a particular task. So that's why the trigger condition or the start condition of this particular flow is going to be a record whenever a record is created or updated. And then I have set the entry condition as action plan field is null, is true, and then it is actions and related records. So it is optimized for actions and related. I'm not doing fast field updates over here. A very important thing to note is when exactly are the records created? So what happens is whenever you are working with action plans, so whenever a new action plan is created, first of all, a task related to it is created. And thereafter that, an action plan item would be created. So that's the cadence of how the records are created. Because in action plan, item, if you check the action plan item fields, you'll see that there's a field which is called item ID, which requires the task field. So if we look for, let's say, action plan item Salesforce. So this is your Salesforce developer help article. Over here, you can see what are the fields that we have under action plan item ID, uh, under action plan item object. So that requires ID, which is ID of the task created by the action plan item. So this is required. Okay, so because of this cadence, right? So whenever we create a new action plan, we have to create a task first and then the action plan item ID. The flow, which is right now working on, which is a record triggered flow on task object. So this will not automatically work in the same transaction if you are trying to update this action plan using this flow. So that is the reason why this flows run immediately will not work. We have to create this as an asynchronous flow. So let's see what we are doing inside this flow. So first of all, based on this entry condition, we have this flow on task, and then we have action plan is null true. Now, the reason why this flow is on task rather than action plan item is because action plan item is not available for update through the, it's not available for trigger through the flow or through Salesforce trigger, Apex trigger. So that is why we have to rely on task. Now what's happening is basically I'm getting records of the action plan item based on the item ID equals record or whatever the task ID is which triggered this flow. And then if that record of the action plan item is found, then I'm updating the task record. So this flow is very basic in nature. So it's not difficult to understand, but the key item over here is that we'll have to create a scheduled path. So run immediately won't work over here. So I have to create a scheduled path. So again, I'll have to, break it out into different transactions so that my flow will work once the item ID record is created. So I'm gonna schedule it like this. Offset number I'm going to put as 0. I don't have, minute control of after how much time should this flow get triggered. So I'm trying to keep it as minimum as possible. So that's why I've put it at 0 minutes after. So I'm gonna hit save as and save. And I'm gonna switch to freeform and I'm gonna change this to schedule paths. Done and then save. All right, so okay, all right. So let's change this to updated and save. Okay. So created or updated when created is updated. All right. So let's get rid of that. And now I'm gonna run activate this. Okay. Okay, so now let me create a new action plan. Let's say I'm on this financial deal, right? And over here, I've added an action plan list view. I'm going to create a new new action plan over here. So let's say it's this demo action plan. And then I'm going to say, I'm going to use sample plan and start date. I'm going to say 16th and click on next and save. So my new action plan has been created. And if I go in here, you can see that right now the action plan is still not populated. Action plan field is still not populated. So it will take, about 10 to 20 seconds for this field to get populated through that flow. That's where I meant to say that, it's an asynchronous process. So it takes a little bit of time to run. And because using flows, I don't have that minute uh, controllability as to when this flow will run. So that's why it appears from a user perspective to have a slight delay, which some of the users might not accept, whereas some of the other users will accept because they want to keep their technical debt to a minimum. Flow, because it is declarative, it's easy to reconfigure. So that's why some of the clients like to have flow functionality. Whereas now I'm going to show you another way to achieve this with um, you know, least amount of time delay in it using a trigger, which might be beneficial for some of the other clients who really need everything to be at fast pace. Okay, so as you can see now, it has populated this. So now action plan is populated as this demo action plan. All right, now let's see another way to achieve this using a trigger. So I've created an update action plan trigger. So this is the trigger that I've created. Right now, this is inactive. Um, I'm going to make my flow inactive first so that we can see how this trigger will work. So this is my trigger, and I'm using action plan update controller along with this trigger. So I'm gonna show you what that also looks like quickly. So we go to the action plan controller. Okay, so action plan update controller. So over here, I'm adding just 1 second over here. That's it. So 1 second would be more than enough for me to ensure that the transaction is divided into two separate transactions. In the first transaction, action plan task would be created and action plan item is getting created. And in the next transaction, I'm able to search for that action plan item ID, and I'm able to get the item record, and then I'm able to update that action plan ID to the task. All right, so let's now go back to our test scenario. And before going back to the scenario, let's ensure that our trigger is active. So I'm gonna go to task, and again, task, trigger. The name of the trigger is update action plan. So let's activate this. Save. So again, this is running in after insert on task. All right. So let's go back and let's go to the financial deal again. And let's go to action plan. And let me create a third action plan now. So I'm going to say test demo action plan using trigger. Okay. So now let's put a start date. Let's select an action plan template and let's go to next. And let me hit save. So now another action plan has been created. As you can see, there's hardly any lag in it. So this action plan got updated really quick. It at most it will give you 2 second lag. That's it. All right. So although it's very easy to update, the action plan uh, field on, let's say, on the task using a flow or trigger, but the key thing to highlight over here is that you cannot do everything in one single transaction. I have lost quite a lot of time in understanding how this entire process works. So that is why I would like to share this out to my fellow developers and architects and different people out there who are working with financial services cloud so that they do not have to waste a lot of time in understanding how this can be achieved, how user experience enhancement can happen around this particular use case. Now, another pro of using this approach is now you can create a custom report type with action plan and its related tasks, which will allow you to understand, what are the tasks related to an open action plan, how many tasks have been completed. You can do a whole lot of analytics around it. So all of this is possible using this functionality of adding in a lookup field on task, which helps to roll up everything. You can potentially also use roll up helper now to decide how many tasks are completed on that particular action plan. You can calculate out percentage of completion of the action plan. So you can do a whole lot of things now because this field is getting populated. If you like my video, please hit like button, hit subscribe button so that you can get notifications of my latest videos related to Financial Services Cloud. Thank you and have a great day. Thanks.